A rare and balanced view on politics in today's world. Based on facts, born of rationality, common sense, and logic, providing context on today's events. This is American Perspective with Rick Thomas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to American Perspective. I am your host. All right, for those of you who are over on Rumble, all right, those of you who are on Rumble, I'm trying a different way to connect to Rumble because obviously there was a challenge where, right at the top of the hour, roughly, you would get there would be a momentary blip. And without going into too much about it, I'm trying a different way in. And so, yeah, audio sounds different and the video looks different. That's why over on Rumble. You guys are my guinea pigs. I'm trying to make things, stable for you. But yeah, obviously, if that doesn't work, then we'll try something else. There's a couple different ways to get into Rumble, and so we're trying something a little different tonight. Hopefully now originally the audio was coming, it was sounding really bad. No, I'm not going to blame it on the computer. I'm not going to blame it on anything other than the fact that we're trying something different here, and we'll have to go with that. So, I do see that there is already something different about Rumble. Rumble is not giving me any campaigns to advertise on. So we'll just have to see how things go. But that's okay. Um, oh, okay. So three chefs now telling me that the other way is better. Is that because of the audio or the video or both? Um, yeah, like I said, uh, you guys have now. Obviously, I'm also sending over to I'm also sending over to, YouTube this way as well, so we'll just have to see. Anyway, hmm, okay. Yeah, you know the scripts. I know, I know. Couldn't get on Rumble. Audio is choppy. Okay. Well, then, if that's the case, let's see if I can swap over. So give me just a minute here, and let me see if I can swap over to the other. Um, we'll go, and it's sending the data. And now let's see. Yeah, there we go. All right, let me go ahead and turn these guys off then. And how is that? Is that better? Is that better? Oh, I gotta reload this page. And okay. Is that better? Now, Sauron Green Eyeball. Is that better? Okay, so 3 Chevy is saying that we're back and everything's better. All right, well. Okay, so it looks like the other way is not the way to do it. All right. So anyway, we just kind of did 5 minutes of the setup. So there we go. Everything's, I had to try it. I did. I had to try it. So anyway, all right, let's go ahead and get things kicked off here. Tonight we're back at the top of the order. So tonight, for the Pledge of Allegiance, it is the top of the order. It's Amy. Amy is up for tonight's pledge. I don't think I've seen Amy in the chat yet. So let's go ahead and do that. If you are of mine, please stand, remove your hats if you're wearing one like me. And remove your hat if you're wearing one like me. Place your hand over your heart and follow along with Amy as she recites the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All righty, folks, and thank you, Amy, for that wonderful rendition of the pledge. If you would like to hear your rendition of the pledge played here on the program, all you need to do is record yourself performing or reciting the pledge in your style. Take that audio file, video file, whatever kind of file, and either share it or attach it to an email. Either way, you send it to fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. That's fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. And, of course, I'll get you into the rotation. Now, Chevy, 3 Chevy, of course, you know, I have 19 of these things. I'd like to get 20. And 3 Chevy, because of the fact that I like even numbers, 3 Chevy decided to be a little trickster, just like he always is. And he sent me this video. I love these guys. I do. I love these guys. This is on Facebook, by the way. And this is a guy, he's a coach. In this particular account, it's Coach Says Jokes. And yeah, so here, we're just going to watch the video really quick. And for those on the audio portion of the program, it says 65,454,957 people got married last year. And he says, not trying to start drama, but that should be an even number. Yeah, you would you would think it would be an even number. Yeah, you would think it would be an even number. Yeah. Deb, over on Facebook, no, I don't see squish. I don't see squish. But anyway, so there you go. There you go, 3 Chevy. You got, you know, you got in a little bit on that. So speaking of videos, and before I get to that, there is another video that yeah, it could, I don't know. Ms. T says, could it refer to couples? I don't know. I have no idea. It's just, I mean, the numbers seem a little off, but hey, you never know. You could have I mean, in today's day and age, maybe there was a threesome that got married. Who knows? It's not the traditional marriage, obviously, because you would think it would be paired up, you know, one and the other. So anyway, I have no idea. But yeah, so there we go. Those are odd numbers. All right, let's go ahead and talk about tonight's oh, you know what? I went back to the wrong screen. We went back to tonight's headline sponsor. There we go. Oh my gosh. Anyway, let's go ahead and talk about tonight's headline sponsor, which is the Constitution on the Institute on the Constitution. The Institute on the Constitution was established in 2004 as a 501c3 nonprofit with one singular mission, and that is to restore the constitutional republic through grassroots education. All courses and materials are developed using primary source documents and taught from the American view of law and government as defined in the Declaration of Independence in the following three key points. 1, there is a God. 2, our rights come from him. And 3, the purpose of civil government is to secure or protect our God-given rights. The IOTC offers the opportunity to educate yourself on our most precious founding document, the Constitution of the United States. They also provide tools to educate your community and get involved with local government. Start by taking their free U.S. Constitution course and go from there. Use my affiliate link, iotc.americanperspective.online, to sign up. And while you are there, take a moment to look through their other course material and information. My affiliate link, once again, is iotc.americanperspective.online to get great content and learn about our historical founding, and support the show in the process. That's iotc.americanperspective.online. Or if you just want to purchase this fabulous Saddleback leather-bound U.S. Constitution to support the show, go to constitution.americanperspective.online. Check this thing out. It's got 1/8 of an inch of Saddleback leather wrapped around pages that are water and tear resistant. Look at the binding, folks. It's not cheap glue. It's stitched all the way through the leather and the pages contained within. It's got a 100-year warranty against materials and manufacturing defects, such that if you have a problem with this thing, you can send it back to the manufacturer and they will either fix it or replace it for free. It is buddy tested, buddy approved, Billy tasted, Billy approved. My youngest whiskey warrior has confirmed that the information contained within will help you to study for and achieve your civics badge in Scouts. It will probably also allow you to achieve your civics exam, passing it. Go to constitution.americanperspective.online and get yours today. Also, don't forget to check out the rest of the Institute on the Constitution's offerings. And, check it all out. So there you go. Of course, I appreciate them for allowing me to be an affiliate. All right. Before I get too much farther, and in case I forget, our contingent from down under, Becky, down there in the land down under, her birthday is, let's see, if I follow this correctly, her birthday is today, meaning the 30th of August, but today is actually only today for us here, because Australia is actually, the 30th was yesterday. So technically for Becky, we are going to be wishing her a happy birthday, belatedly. So, it's tomorrow already there. So yeah, it's unfortunately we missed it. We missed it last night. I should have sang last night, but I didn't. So anyway, unfortunately, so I will sing tonight as a belated birthday thing. So, our yesterday is there tomorrow, or no, our today is there yesterday, and there tomorrow is our 2 days from now. I don't know. You're going to confuse me. So, yes, on the 30th of August, which is the 30th here, but it's the 31st over there. So, because they cross the international date line. So anyway, hang out, Becky, hang out, and I will get to your birthday song at the end of the show. All right, let's go ahead. Oh, okay, she's celebrating it for 2 days. Well, that's okay. There's a family that I know that the wife, she has not a birthday but a birth month. That doesn't work for me because my birthday actually falls. And this is the way that the birth month works, is essentially once it starts. So let's just say for an example, your birthday is like the 30th of August. Well, you would have the birth month. It would start August 1st, and you would be getting presents all the way up until your birthday on the 30th. Now, that's ideal. But when you have somebody who has their birthday in, say, the 1st or 2nd of that month, yeah, that kind of stinks. It doesn't work. Anyway, all right. Yeah, that's assuming that you even, go with that or whatever. But I digress. All right, so let's go ahead and get on to tonight's first segment, of course, and that is On This Day in American History. And for On This Day in American History, we read from the American Patriots Almanac, which is written by William J. Bennett and John T.E. Cribb. It is chock full of all kinds of factoids about this wonderful country that we call home. And let's go ahead and get started. Today is August 30th. We're going to talk about William Penn sets sail for America. William Penn was a constant source of frustration for his father, a wealthy English admiral. Gee, that covers just about every child. Anyway, the rebellious younger Penn got kicked out of Oxford University for refusing to attend Anglican Church, which is the Church of England services. Then he joined the Society of Friends, a religious sect known as the Quakers, because their leader had once told an English judge to tremble at the word of the Lord. Quakers' religious beliefs and refusal to swear allegiance to any king but God led to their persecution. William Penn found himself imprisoned more than once. Admiral Penn was an old friend of King Charles II and loaned the monarch a good deal of money. When the admiral died, William asked that the debt be paid with land in America. The king liked William, despite his religious beliefs, and granted him a huge tract of wilderness, which Charles named Pennsylvania, meaning Penn's Woods. On August 30th, 1682, William Penn sailed for America to begin his holy experiment, a colony that would be a refuge not only Quakers, but settlers of various faiths. Penn's guarantee of religious freedom was then one of the most comprehensive in the world. Indeed, his plan to include diverse populations while extending a broad measure of religious and political equality was nothing less than revolutionary for its time. Catholics, Lutherans, Baptists, Presbyterians, French Huguenots, and even Anglicans rushed to settle the rich lands. By 1700, Pennsylvania had as many as 21,000 settlers. The capital, Philadelphia, known as the city of brotherly love, became a thriving metropolis, soon the largest of North America's colonial cities. As settlers arrived, English, Scotch-Irish, Welsh, German, Dutch, Swedish, and more, Penn's Woods began to resemble the famous American melting pot. And that is today's On This Day in American History. All right. Fantastic. Yeah, I know. King Charles didn't actually own the land here in America. It was taken. Anyway, we know that. We all know that. So, all right. I forgot to tell you what I'm drinking tonight. So I'm back to the Buffalo Trace. You know, Wednesday was a shift in it. And so here we go. We're back to Buffalo Trace. Wednesday I did my blackberry lemonade, which was Kentucky. But anyway, here we go. In the American perspective, the twin, well, call it a twin. It's actually more of like a fraternal twin to the other. It takes stones to drink with whiskey, but it's a gift. It came as a part of the gift by my Whiskey Warrior P1s. Fantastic. Great looking glass with an awesome logo on it. That's the American Perspective logo right there. So there we go. All right. That's right, Bam. That is a fantastic glass. Okay, well, let's kick off. We saw that one video. We're going to kick off on another video here in just a second. So apparently J.D. Vance has been touring in Wisconsin. He went to Wisconsin. Now, J.D. Vance is, of course, on this this tour, fellowship, whatever you want to call it, this mission to go and talk about the One Big Beautiful Bill and all of the things that the One Big Beautiful Bill and the Trump administration are doing for the American people. And apparently he was on his way to go somewhere to like give a speech. And there were a bunch of leftist lunatic morons who, of course, wanted to hold signs. I'm kind of surprised that whether or not they actually maybe spelled them correctly, I don't know. We're going to watch a posted X video This was posted to Benny Johnson, so Benny Johnson's account, so hat tip to him for bringing it along. But he basically, as the motorcade was going, they were lining up on a street. Well, here, let me go ahead and show you. They were lining up on a street and were trying to protest him as he goes along and his motorcade. Now, keep in mind, this is a motorcade, meaning that there are several vehicles here, and it's all being led in the typical fashion by local motorcycle police officers. Okay? That's a key point here. Because if you'll notice, they're all like looking down this one. It looks to be a one-way street based on the markings in the street, because the markings are in white, not yellow, the middle of the street. And so whenever the markings are in yellow, that would indicate a two-way. So this is in white, so that would indicate 2 lanes of a one-way street. Well, apparently, and here I'm going to let the video roll. But apparently, shoot. I hate it when this does this. Okay, hold on. Let me see if I can get it back. This happens a few times at times whenever I play it. Here we go. All right. So apparently, as he's going along, I'm going to mute it, but as he's going along, he goes up the other side of the street, not the side that they're on. And so all of these protesters who were attempting to like hold up their signs and either protest, I don't know, there might be a few people who were there to welcome him and say hi. I mean, who knows? You can't really tell. There are some obviously that are not, because they're holding up, you know, Ukraine flags and other items. And you can't really see the signs because the cameraman is behind everything. Oh, there's one. It says freedom, not fascism. So anyway, they're lining the streets. They had to like run across the border, which was basically a green space, to get over to the other side. And they had to run, and they were like running, and there's a couple people who obviously walked. They didn't run. But anyway, they get over there and they're like, you know, holding up their signs and stuff like that. Well, here's part of the problem, or part of the issue. So in this wonderful thing, it's 20 seconds of video, but in this thing, the Wisconsin Democrats posted the exact same video and said, J.D. Vance went the wrong way down a one-way street to avoid protesters in Wisconsin. Let me just point this out to you. There were local motorcycle cops leading the motorcade. If the local cops went up the wrong way down this quote-unquote one-way street, not J.D. Vance's fault. And this is just the beginning of essentially the whole thought process in terms of, you know, again, leftists don't think. They just don't think. They're like, hey, you know, we're going to blame J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance isn't behind the wheel, you morons. J.D. Vance is in the back of a limo being driven by a Secret Service agent. Just like Donald Trump was behind the wheel, or not behind the wheel. Okay. And, yeah, it's just, come on, folks. And authorities obviously didn't indicate whether or not any traffic laws have been violated, but let me just tell you something. Traffic laws are not violated when you're dealing with a motorcade like this. Now, honestly, I think the reason why they went down the other street, because those of you who have watched the video see that the other side of the street has actually 3 lanes of traffic rather than 2. And so it allows for more of a buffer to keep people away from the path and to give yourself a little bit of extra room so that when these morons go, and which you saw in the video, they went and they jumped out into the lanes that were right next to the street, it gives more of a buffer to allow people not, a little bit more time and a little bit more space so they can't necessarily approach the vehicles and do something bad. So again, this is all stop. I mean, this is all like, this is ridiculous. They're just sitting here. The Democrats or the leftist morons that are running around here, they're all trying to like pick on something. Again, J.D. Vance is not behind the wheel. The motorcade's just going to follow the cops because those cops stop traffic. Kind of like when a funeral procession goes by. They're just going to follow the cops. They're not going to decide whether or not they're, doing things illegally or whatever. They're just going to follow the police officers because the police officers are the ones that know what's going on, and they're going the way that the police officers have decided that is the best route. Well, police officers and Secret Service. Anyway, these people, they're just picking for a fight. That's pretty much all they're doing is picking for a fight. Speaking of a funeral procession, I don't know if anybody has seen, but I know I was watching over the socials and, all of the social outlets that I have. And one thing common keeps popping up. And I keep telling these people, you know what? You're really being stupid for this, not to mention, but you're sick and disgusting. And what that is they keep saying, oh, we're just waiting for the big orange obituary, to be, well, what are you going to do when the big orange obituary gets posted in the paper? All of those kinds of morons. And the reality of it is that, well, I'm just going to tell you right now, folks, you're wasting your time and you're sick and disgusting. I mean, because even when Biden was at his worst, the right, and this is why the left doesn't think, but the right was basically saying, hey, just get him out of office. He's obviously cognitive decline. Get him some help. Get him some health. Get him where he needs to be. Don't have him lead the country. But not very many people that I know went through and, sat there and was like saying, oh, yeah, we hope Joe Biden gets shot, or we hope Joe Biden has his obituary. He needs to die. No, sorry, folks, but the right doesn't do that. The leftists do, but not the right. Well, speaking of them not thinking, this came out and has been reported across all of the outlets. Labor Day gas prices have hit a 5-year low under Trump. So Americans are seeing the lowest gas prices for Labor Day weekend in at least 5 years. And there's reportedly additional savings on airfare, hotels, car rentals, so on and so forth. And all of this, of course, has been around or, wrapped around the Labor Day weekend. Well, they're going to pay people who are driving over the Labor Day holiday weekend will pay the lowest gas prices in at least 5 years. Now, the Trump White House is, of course, touting this new report by Gas Buddy, talking about, how consumers will pay the lowest price at the pump on Labor Day since 2020. Keep in mind, Labor Day 2020 was before the 2020 election. Trump was in office at that time, too, folks. So, oh my gosh. Now, keep in mind, obviously, and this is another thing that leftists don't think about, but places like California, New York, Washington, Oregon, any of those leftist cesspools where they add a whole bunch of taxes and stuff on it. Yeah. obviously the prices are still going to be high, which is why I keep laughing whenever I see the leftist morons sitting there saying, it's $3.79 for gas. Where the hell is that? I'm paying $6. Well, yeah, that's because California adds a whole bunch of state taxes. So does Washington. Washington, as far as I know, still has like road taxes attached and all of this other stuff. So, yeah. If you're on the left, you got to think about all this stuff. You're just sitting there and trying to say, well, I haven't seen $1.98 gas. Well, that's because you're not in the right freaking state. You're not in the right part of the country. You need to move. Leave your voting habits behind and move. But anyway. So Gas Buddy predicts that prices could drop below $3 per gallon on average this fall. Additionally, according to them, hotel rates have fallen by 11%, domestic airfares by 6%, and car rental costs by 3% compared to last year. So, yeah. And, of course, the White House is saying that is all due to the fact that President Trump's focus on revitalizing America's energy sector and dismantling restrictive policies that were from the Joe Biden era. So, anyway. Yeah. All right. Well, we've got some good news. Although we need better news, we need more good news, we need more than this. But do you remember those 300,000 plus migrant children that got lost under the Biden administration? You know, the ones that the Biden administration basically just brought into the country and just let them run amok or go to people that were not fully vetted. Yeah, all of those folks. Well, Tom Homan has said that they've made some progress on finding these kids. They have actually located, according to him, 23,000 of the missing 300,000 children. And of course, reports came out that some of these children that came in here to this country, unaccompanied minors, were stuck into or pushed into programs and places that, basically were unvetted, homes that were unvetted. Some of them were at risk of trafficking and abuse. But Tom Homan announced Friday that federal officials have found those, many of these missing children under the Biden administration. Tom made the comments on Fox News as the administration released some of the data about President Trump's mass deportation efforts. Holman said, quote, out of the 300,000 children, I looked at the numbers just yesterday, we've located over 23,000 of them. That's right. 23,000 of them. And he goes, that's a big plus for the administration because the last administration wasn't even looking for them. So, yeah. And he also continued and said, President Trump is committed. We're not going to stop until we find every one of them, or at least run every lead down on those 300,000 children. So that 300,000 figure, by the way, is taken from a government report that was in 2024 about unaccompanied migrant children who had been released to sponsors or family members within the U.S. The report said that 32,000 of those children failed to show up to immigration court between 2019 and 2023, but that another 291,000 of those children didn't even receive any court notices at all. Critics say that this claim is, that the children are not actually missing, but that it's more of a bureaucratic paperwork issue of the government. And the American Immigration Council, Aaron Reichlin Melnick, who is of the American Immigration Council to the BBC, said to the BBC, That doesn't mean something bad happened to them. It just means that you missed a court hearing. Although that same person also admitted that some of the children are at higher risk for trafficking and abuse. Now, how about if they weren't even let in the first place, folks? If they weren't even let in the first place, they wouldn't be here. They wouldn't be at risk. Yeah. Anyway, these people are just, they don't think. They think, oh yeah, that's just because, just because they didn't make their court date doesn't mean that they're not, they're in a bad spot or whatever. No, the reason why they're in a bad spot is because they came here unaccompanied and were, allowed into the country rather than sent back to their parents. Anyway. Okay, so we all know about Texas's redistricting, which, by the way, has been signed into law now by Governor Abbott. We all know that California is gearing up to try and get a proposition known as Prop 50 passed in November on a special ballot to be able to redistrict their already gerrymandered, pretty damn good state in order to try and get 5 Republican seats flipped to 5 Democrat seats in a against their state constitution, against the will of the people, because the will of the people put in an independent commission over this. The will of the people put in the fact that they could only redistrict when the census hit, so once every 10 years. And they're trying to get, Gavin Newsom, I should say, good old oiled, slicked back hair, needs to understand that the American people and the Californian people are not really on board with this. I've seen polls that have said that not everybody is on board with this whole damn thing. But one thing that the right has not considered is the fact that, well, there are other Republican-run states that are going to potentially redistrict. And that if it's, if California redistricts to offset Texas, there are several other red states that are ready and willing and apparently able to go ahead and redistrict to offset the offset. So essentially what's happening here is California and the Democrats are starting a war that realistically they can't win at this point. But again, leftists don't think. And so, yeah, they think that they're just going to be able to redistrict in California, and that'll be the end of it. Nope. So this piece in Town Hall, it's happening. Missouri to hold special session to redraw congressional districts. So now the Democrats obviously were warned about this, and they were warned that this was going to end badly. There's no way that they can win a redistricting war. And this comes from, again, Gavin Newsom trying to basically say that the Texas redistricting was illegal and so on and so forth. The Texas redistricting was court ordered. I don't know why nobody has really said that, because again, it was court ordered under U.S. versus Texas, where the Biden administration sued under the Voter Rights Act and, got Texas to have to redistrict. So anyway, now that being the case, obviously Massachusetts threatened to redraw their maps. Yeah, that's not going to make any difference because Massachusetts hasn't had a Republican congressman for over 30 years. But now Missouri has decided that they are scheduled to hold a special session to potentially redraw its maps, potentially giving Republicans another seat. So Missouri's Republican Governor Mike Kehoe announced on Friday that he was calling for a special legislative session that will include redrawing the state's congressional map, setting the stage for mid-decade redistricting in a state just after Texas did essentially the same. Well, Texas, again, was legally ran. So the special session, which is going to slated to begin Wednesday of next week, will also focus on reforming the state's ballot initiative petition process. So Kehoe said in a statement yesterday, "Today I am calling on the General Assembly to take action on congressional redistricting and initiative petition reform to ensure our districts and Constitution truly put Missouri values first." Kehoe also unveiled a proposed congressional map that he called the Missouri First Map, which he said splinters counties and towns less than the state current one and preserves 2 districts as they are. So, Missouri's current congressional delegation is made up of 6 Republicans and 2 Democrats. Kehoe's proposed congressional map significantly redraws the 5th congressional district, who is represented by Emanuel Cleaver, a Democrat, who was first elected to the U.S. House in 2004, to include a significantly larger swath of the state. So, yeah. I mean, again, here's the thing, folks. Regardless of what you want to do with this, honestly, I mean, gerrymandering by itself should be completely outlawed. It really should. They should basically, like I've said in social media posts and things like that, they should just take the state, break it up based on population only. Who cares what, what race or what ethnicity the population actually is? They should just go and just break it up and say, hey, if we have 100,000 people who are going to be per representative, basically, because of our numbers, then just pick a square or a rectangle that is 100,000 people, and there's a district. And then do the same for the next district, and the next district, and so on and so forth. Enough with this running, going around and doing, run this thing all the way across the state, following like a frickin' river path or something like that. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah, they're the Democrats, the leftists they're not paying attention. They're just not paying attention. David over on Facebook says, it's funny, once Texas passed their redistricting, we haven't heard much from Jasmine Crockett. Actually, we've been hearing a lot from Jasmine Crockett. She has been posting all kinds of videos and crap to TikTok and social media. She has not been in front of any of the MSM, the mainstream media. But yeah, she has been posting and talking. She's been smacking out of the side of her freaking mouth about all kinds of stuff. And yeah, she is, I mean, she's just talking more on crap, but that's just the way that Jasmine Crockett is. So. Yep. That's that Buffalo Trace for you, baby. All right. Well, here we go. We're going at it again. What am I talking about? Apparently, these lawyers, these judges, and of course, the morons who are on the left, yeah, they obviously don't think ahead. They really don't. I'm just saying, they just don't think ahead. We have another Christian baker who is going to SCOTUS. Only this time it's not the Colorado guy. He went twice. And both times they got slapped down. You know, this is part of the problem, is that these leftist judges, these leftist moron judges, they don't seem to understand that when SCOTUS says, hey, by the way, you can't tell this person that they are going to create something because they have these religious beliefs, okay? Yeah. Anyway, so this Christian baker is now pleading for SCOTUS to end California. There's a surprise. California's lawfare against her religious beliefs. So she has gone to the U.S. Supreme Court now to end California's attempts to force her to violate her deeply held religious beliefs. Her petition, which was filed with the High Court on Wednesday, Golden State resident Kathy Miller requested that the judges take up her case, or the justices, I should say, take up her case and issue a ruling in defense of her First Amendment rights. At least 4 justices must agree to hear a case before it can be considered by the full court. She said in a statement, "All I want is to serve my neighbors as the gospel of Jesus Christ calls me without being forced to create messages that violate my beliefs." So the case first came to fruition in 2017 when Miller, who is a Christian cake artist, was asked to design a wedding cake for a same-sex couple. After declining to do so, due to her Christian beliefs about the sanctity of marriage and referring the couple to another baker, Miller was subjected to an investigation and legal action by the California Civil Rights Department, according to Newsweek. Okay, here's the thing, all right? And then this I seem to recall growing up in a time and a place where if I walked into a baker and I said, "Hey, I want to commission you to create a cake." Doesn't matter what the cake actually is made out of, okay? But I want to commission you to create a cake. And this cake is going to be this, whatever this is. And if the baker looked at me and said, "You know what, I can't or won't, either way, it doesn't make a difference, do that. But here's the name of a baker down the road. They do a pretty good work. Maybe you can ask them." Back when I was growing up, and even today, I would say, "Oh, okay. Well, thank you." And I'd take the referral and I'd go to the next baker. Because I'm not a stupid moron. Because I'm not oh, no, you refused? Oh, that means I am going to have to force you to make this cake. Folks, if you ever have worked in the food industry, there is a lot of horror stories. I don't know if I would want to be forcing anybody in the food industry to essentially, try and do something, because let me just explain something to you. That food or whatever it is, if you're at a restaurant and you complain about the food and you send the food back to get cooked more or whatever, okay, and you do it in a rude fashion, I guarantee you're going to have that food come back with something a little extra added to it. Okay? Especially if you're an asshole about it. And I'm just like, there are certain things in life that you just don't want to mess with. I mean, I don't know where these people really get off over the idea that this one singular cake artist is the only singular cake artist that is in an area. And oh my gosh, we have to have this one singular cake artist do our cake. The damn thing's going to be eaten anyway. I mean, seriously. You're going to take a photo of it, and that's what you're going to remember. Unless, of course, you do the tradition of taking the first piece of cake and freezing it, and then eating, potentially freezer burnt cake your first anniversary or whatever. But, yeah, I'm sorry. There's certain things that it's just like going into your mechanic when your car is in there and complaining about the level of service that you got. There's a possibility that your car may not be running when they get done with it. And especially now, I mean, oh my gosh, nowadays you hear all kinds of stories where people are going in and they don't even, I mean, they're not even, overtly saying anything. But if you even look like you're a conservative and you go into a leftist leaning business, that leftist leaning business is going to do something violent or abhorrent towards you because they're violent and abhorrent in their thought processes. Now, a conservative business, generally speaking, I'm just going to say, if you go walking in there as a leftist and don't make a fool out of yourself, they're generally going to service you with a smile. But not the left kind of things here. It's like, really? It's like, come on, just go somewhere else. Find another cake maker that might be happy for the business. And you never know. You may end up running across a cake maker that is just absolutely phenomenal in their artistry. But anyway, now, the California trial court initially sided with Miller in the dispute, but then a state appeals court reversed the decision, allowing the lawfare to continue to be proceeding. Miller later appealed to the California Supreme Court, which declined to hear the case. I mean, really? Declined to hear the case. I mean, this should have been just hey, we're going to bring you in, and in accordance with the Supreme Court decision, we're siding with you. That should have been it. So now what we're going to see is a petition to SCOTUS, which is hopefully going to get accepted. And I'm getting, I'm sure even the SCOTUS judges are getting tired of having to repeat themselves over and over and over again. A couple of judges here recently kind of made that abundantly clear in their comments in other opinions that, hey, lower courts, you guys need to pay attention to us. So anyway, in the petition to SCOTUS, they asked the question, or they asked, Miller's attorneys argued that California's 8-year civil prosecution of Miller violates both the free speech clause as well as the free exercise clause of the First Amendment by forcing her to undertake actions that conflict with her Christian beliefs. The filing reads, the Bill of Rights does not leave it open to public authorities to compel Miller to utter what was not in her mind, and because designing and creating one of the most well-known and universal of all wedding symbols involves both Miller's speech and her religion, both clauses are implicated. So, yeah, and keep in mind, this is essentially like this in terms of a striking resemblance to the Masterpiece Cake Shop incident in which Jack Phillips was sued for declining to create a wedding cake for same-sex couples. Now, I'm going to tell you this. I can almost guarantee you, I'll bet you they sought her out. They don't want to go elsewhere, because if they do go elsewhere, they get their cake. That's not what they're after. What they're after is they're after to cause this person, because remember, the process is the punishment. This is to punish a Catholic belief or a Christian belief, and to sit there and say, hey, you know what? We're going to punish these people. We're going to basically beat them into submission, because that's what they do. These people need to be taught a lesson, honestly. And I would have thought with the Masterpiece Cake Shop incident twice, okay, that this would be basically done. So, yeah, this, I mean, again, and by the way, too, I mean, one of the things that Chief Justice Roberts does is he constantly tries to make very narrow opinions. What should have come out of the Masterpiece Cake Shop is pretty much like, hey, if it's against your religious beliefs, you can't be forced to do it. And I mean, realistically, you could even take that even farther. I personally think that, hey, if it's against whatever you say, you don't want to do it. You can't be forced to do it. You're not a slave. If you decide as a business to, and keep in mind, all right, this is for a specialty product. This is not in general refusing service, although I seem to recall seeing signs up saying no shirt, no shoes, no service, which could, yeah, in a very broad-based sense, may say, hey, you're discriminating against the fact that I don't wear shirt or shoes. But that seemed to hold up just fine. No shirt, no shoes, no service. In a lot of places, that happened to have to that happened to be a health code violation, which again, common sense needs to come to these people. They need to just understand, hey, if it's the only bake shop within like 100 miles, okay, of a particular area, then yeah, you might have a bit of an argument to make because that person is essentially a monopoly. But the reality of it is that, hey, anybody, it doesn't matter who it is. If you go to somebody and you ask them to provide a service for you, okay, and you ask them to provide a service, they can refuse it no matter what happens, just like anybody else, okay? I can refuse service, but that you can't refuse service, and this is the part that draws the line, you can't refuse service based on somebody's race or whatever. And that meaning refusing service. So, yeah. Anyway. All right. Okay. Let's, all right. Well, I haven't done one of these in a while, so let me just talk to you a little bit about my own store, okay? My own store. That's right. I have an American Perspective logoed gear store. And you can take a look. This is one of the logos. Let me move the microphone. That's one of the logos right there for it. And it's on, in this one, it's on a gray shirt. I've got plenty of different things. You can head on over to store.americanperspective.online now that we've gotten a small hiccup in the payment screen taken care of. Thanks, Coco, for pointing that out. But head on over to store.americanperspective.online and get all kinds of shirts, hoodies, crew neck sweatshirts. Fall is coming around the corner. You may want to grab a hoodie or a crew neck sweatshirt for you. But go and take a look at the store and you can grab all kinds of stuff. There's also links to where you can click on the link and go and get a Constitution of the United States, like I talked to you about earlier. You can also go, oh, that's great, Coco. That's great that your shirt's on its way. You can also go and click the link that takes you to the Old Whiskey Musings store as well, which somebody went and ordered a couple things from there. It's taking a little while, but anyway. So yeah, you should go and check all of that out. And go and check it out. Go to store.americanperspective.online and get yourself something. And of course, once you get yourself something, of course, I appreciate it because that, and I only take a small part. I really don't. I try to keep the costs low. And I only take a small little bit on the top, for the show. It's really not all that much, but I do appreciate the fact that you guys go and take a look and grab your gear, show off the fact that you listen to American Perspective, and you can help advertise for me at the same time for all of this in order to grow the show and everything else, plus get great quality merchandise. In fact, they are fantastic shirts. I mean, I've been wearing them and so on and so forth, and yeah, I wear mine. I know a bunch of other people that wear theirs, and it's really a good quality shirt. So, so there you go. go to store.americanperspective.online and check it out and get your stuff today. And that's part of the reason too, by the way, that it's part of the reason too, by the way, that I don't actually do like sales and things like that, because I really only take a small amount off the top. I really don't try to keep from overcharging all of you. So anyway, go and check it out. store.americanperspective.online. Well, you know, one thing that the leftists seem to forget is that they have had control of our educational system for quite some time. And they sit and they talk about all the things like, reading is low, reading comprehension is low, math is, abhorrent, all of these things, understanding, et cetera, et cetera. Entire classes and grades are failing. And they wonder why. Well, here's a piece in the Epic Times that kind of explains some of it. And I'm kind of ironic in sort of a strange way, I guess. I don't even know if I'm using the term ironic correctly. But most teachers are actually opposed to doing things like equitable grading. So half of the American schools, according to the Epic Times piece, half of American schools require what they consider to be equitable grading. What do they mean by equitable grading? Well, equitable grading basically means that you have essentially the ability to retake the test over and over and over again. You don't have like a limited number of times to do it. You can do things like, let's see, where is it? Yeah, so you can retake it over and over in order to get to a higher score. Okay. You get incomplete grades for the semester. You can continue, there's no penalty for turning in work late. There's several other things that are there that are going around. And so lackluster student performance has plagued. This was in the Schenectady, New York, I hope I pronounced that correctly, city school district for years. And they implemented a grading for equity policy in response to dismal test scores. Okay. However, a recent national survey indicates that most teachers feel that grade equity actually hurts students long term. No kidding. You don't hold these kids to a standard. They're just going to do the bare minimum in order to get by. I mean, that's seriously. I don't even understand where somebody would come up with the idea that, hey, well, actually I do. There was this thing known as No Child Left Behind, which I think was grand in theory, but in practicality implemented in a very poor fashion. And yes, I'm going to blame a Bush for that bullshit. And yes, I did say that. But here, Schenectady, 2022-2023 academic report, according to the piece, said that 95% of its high school freshmen were behind in math by 3 or more grade levels. And you wonder why we are failing across the board in the world when it comes to these kinds of things. Why businesses are reaching out to other countries and connecting things like H-1B visas and that kind of stuff. Okay, well, they decided to change that. And they found that the district, and this was a year later, the district reported that in the first quarter of the 2022-2023 school year, more than half of its middle school students also were 3 or more grade levels behind in both reading and math. And the daily attendance rate for high schoolers had dipped below 79%. In response to these disappointing results, the district leaders decided to implement a grading for equity policy where the students are not penalized for, again, handing in assignments late. They're allowed to take retakes all the time with continuous guidance from teachers until their scores actually reflect proficiency levels. Incomplete grades for the semester require authorization from school principals, and this policy took effect last fall. One of the Schenectady High School student social studies teachers, his name is Christopher Ognebeni. I can't pronounce these names. Anyway, he says it's almost academic fraud. He recalled a student who was given B's all year but failed at the end of year New York State Regents assessment with a score of 43. You really see what's happening here? I mean, not only are our kids being subjected to all kinds of what would be considered indoctrination, okay, but they're sitting here and they're not even passing grade level examinations. And you sit and wonder where the educational system and why people want the educational system, the Department of Education, to be dismantled. There's a reason why, because they're putting out all kinds of crap policies that are not going to do anything. Anyway, he says, watered down report cards and transcripts mean nothing if you are left unprepared academically for college. And then there are due dates in the real world. It doesn't matter where you go after high school. And most of the teachers in the school district agree with his assessment. According to a recent survey by the Thomas B. Fordham Foundation and the RAND Corporation education team members, they all agree with this. The August 20 report, Equitable Grading Through the Eyes of Teachers, summarizes the responses from nearly 1,000 teachers from K through 12 districts across the country in late 2024. The report says, turns out teachers don't like it when the powers that be take a sledgehammer to their few sources of leverage over student motivation and effort. Nor do they like giving grades to students that the students don't deserve. The report identifies 5 equitable grading practices: the unlimited retakes, no late penalties, no zeros, no homework. That's a good one. No homework. Man, I heard about that and I was like, what? No homework? What the hell? And no required participation. More than half of the surveys identified at least one of those practices in each school, while a quarter noted that their districts actually allow up to 3 of them. Most commonly, the unlimited retakes, the no late penalties, and no zeros. Yeah. 81% of the teachers who were surveyed out of that 1,000 said they are particularly opposed to requirements for partial credit awarded on late assignments. Folks, this is the reason why our federal Department of Educational system is a failure. It is a failure. And this is why the American students, this is why you can go out on the street with those man on the street videos like, Ari, whatever, Horowitz, I think, does them. And there's a few others where you go out and you ask them, hey, what's the birth date of the United States of America? What's considered the birth date of the United States of America? And that birth date would be July 4th, 1776. Yeah. And, so many people can't even get that. When you ask how many states are in the United States, they follow along with Obama. It's like, 52? No, there's 50. There's 50. And then you have cities or states like Oregon, which basically say, hey, by the way, you know what? We're just going to graduate you anyway. You don't need to pass any tests. You don't have to do anything because, and this is the reason why now, because of the fact that leftists and the leftist lunatics who have taken over our education system look at things like this and they go, you know what? Black kids can't learn as well. And so because black kids can't learn as well, we're going to create it so that they can always pass. Really? Really? I mean, that's essentially what they did in Oregon. Now, I don't remember if they specifically called out black students, but I can guarantee you that just about all leftists think that way, because all leftists seem to think that a black individual in America today can't get a driver's license for some damn reason. It's like, really? 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 I mean, seriously, I can't figure this out. You know how you make kids learn? Do you know how you get kids to actually learn? And let me explain this as a parent of 2 children, as a former scoutmaster, as a former soccer team coach, as a former college, granted it was community college, but a former community college professor. You know how you get people to learn? You provide them with structure. You don't change the freaking rules. You provide them with structure. You give them a consequence when they cross the line, and you give them support when they need it. But more importantly, you provide them with the tools that they need in order to learn on their own. See, as an educator, I was always under the belief that if a child failed, it was because I did not teach them. It has nothing to do with whether or not the individual has learning disabilities or anything else. Because it's my job as the teacher or the instructor or the coach to adapt and modify the way that I present the information so that the student, regardless of their age, so the student can actually learn. So that means if you have a student who learns more visually, you don't hand them a book and expect them to read it and understand it. You provide them with the educational tools that they need in order to fully understand the material. This is where come on. This is not going to work. Going and changing things that have been taught for thousands of years, like math, regular math, and turning it into Common Core math has done nothing for our children. In fact, in most cases, it ends up confusing them even more. I know that there are classes here in Washington, they don't even bother with remembering your multiplications tables. And being able to memorize the multiplications tables, okay, is a precursor to learning and understanding how to divide. Because if you can learn how to multiply, the reverse or inverse operation is division. If you can multiply, you can divide. Simple as that. If you can add, you can subtract. Simple as that. It's not that difficult. But apparently, some brilliant person was like, oh, yeah, this stuff is just so hard for people. No, what they did is they found a small group of people and they said, yeah, okay, these small group of people are having trouble learning. We now need to dumb down the entire population in order to fit the small group of people, because we can't have them trained in a different way or taught in a different way. I mean, this is ridiculous. So honestly, I have no idea where these people are getting this idea from. I really don't. But again, they don't think. These leftists are not thinking about the possibility of what's going on. All right. Oh. Ooh, okay. I think I'm going to skip a couple of these stories that I have. We're going to cut them onto the cutting room floor. But you want to know how stupid leftists are? Let's just find one of the head leftists. Her name is Rosie O'Donnell. Oh, she was so upset about Donald Trump. Donald Trump being elected that she actually packed up. I have to give her props for this. She actually packed up and moved to Ireland. I'm wondering if Ireland is asking and requesting for her to come back. Anyway. Excuse me. So, Rosie O'Donnell went on to TikTok, because that's what she does. She goes on to TikTok and she says, oh yeah, hey, you know that Minneapolis school shooter that just happened? Yeah. She claimed that guy was an anti-Catholic, or claimed that okay, let me rephrase this, because I'm going to get wrapped up around the axle here if I don't, do. She claimed that this individual was a Republican MAGA person. Really. She alleged the shooter was a white guy Republican MAGA person. She also claims that he was a white supremacist, which he did have white supremacy kind of thoughts and comments in his manifesto. But what these people don't seem to understand, white supremacists are generally left-leaning, not right-leaning. You know, Nazism is left-wing, not right-wing. Granted, there is a fringe alt-right group that is sort of, if you think of it sort of like a circle, they're so far to the right, they're almost left. I mean, that's basically the way it is. She also called out the NRA being a terrorist organization. But what she doesn't seem to understand is this guy who perpetrated this horrendous act, in his own words, he expressed one really specific desire. He wanted to kill children. Period. This guy was a mentally ill individual. Period. Rosie apparently hasn't heard that he also had written on his weapons that he wanted to kill Donald Trump. He also expressed hatred of the racial minorities, although he did say that he didn't think that they were worth killing. Okay. He wanted to kill kids. That was his motive. That was his intent. I mean, this is a sick individual. He also wanted to target high-profile figures like Elon Musk. He had defend equality, but at the same time, he also had free Palestine written on one of his firearms. He had things written on his firearms talking about the Holocaust and how it wasn't enough. These people, this individual, any of these people that do these kinds of things, they are literally mentally ill. There's just no two ways about it. If you want to go and want to commit a mass killing, there's just no two ways about it. They are mentally ill. Period. He also this shooter exhibited a distinctly anti-Christian bias. He had a question written on one of his firearms saying, "Where is your God now?" He had an image of Jesus as a shooting target. I mean, this guy is just, he's just horrible. He's essentially a nut job. Now, his mother, I'm just going to point this out. His mother isn't much better. Okay. She worked at the Catholic school, but she petitioned to change this man's gender when he was 17. Why? She's refusing, by the way, from the last that I heard, she's refusing to work with police on all of this. This guy is, he is a sick individual. And that's just the way it is. He's a sick individual. And that's what we need to be focusing on. We need to be focusing on mental health in this country, not the gun. The gun is just a tool. No different than when Timothy McVeigh blowing up the Ryder truck that he built. It's just a tool. The car that goes and runs over people in a drunk driving accident, that's just the tool. It's the guy behind, or the person behind the wheel, that causes the problem. It's the person pulling the trigger that causes the problem. It was the drunk in the drunk driving incident who caused the problem, not the car. Anyway. All right, folks. I'm so tired of these leftist lunatics that are sitting here and they're just going on and on and on, which, by the way, I don't think they quite fully understand that their numbers are going to decrease over time. Their numbers are going to decrease over time because, especially when you're talking to a lunatic leftist, they sit here and they talk about, abortion and killing their babies, and killing their babies is like a badge of honor to them. Do they not realize that all that's doing is cutting out their progeny? I mean, I'm all for it. Hey, you guys, you know what? You want to do that? Go ahead. Kill off all your kids. I mean, it's disgusting. It's immoral. It's, horrific. But go ahead. Because what that means is that your genetic line ends with you. So there you go. And the progressives that are sitting here talking about, no. I mean, even as much as an individual who basically says, I want to choose to not have children, regardless. Like, hey, okay, go for it. And well, for whatever reason that you decide not to have children, that's fine. That is entirely up to you. That is your choice. But I'm glad that you're choosing to not have children for your own reasons rather than sit here and, try and go against the idea of having, all types of offspring that are going to be potentially along the same lines as you are. I mean, especially when you're dealing with somebody who is completely mentally ill like this. This is crazy. But hey, go ahead. Whatever you want to do. All right, let me go ahead and get into tonight's question of the week. And tonight's question of the week comes in from, of course, the venerable Buddy Weiser. Buddy does a lot of these things. Somebody else needs to not that I don't want to answer Buddy's questions, but we need to get some more questions coming. Come on, people, get some questions coming, okay? All right. So, Buddy writes, greetings, my interweb friend. I hope these inquiries find you well and with stout spirits. Now, this is not so much a political question. This is more of a personal one, so this is kind of cool. He says, since you are a equestrian-involved person, possibly you'll be able to help us out. And he's got a list of 6 questions. So here we go. I'm going to answer each one of them as I read it. So, question number 1. Are the size of horses still described with the units called hands? Yes, they are. And that actually harkens all the way back to before the days that, rulers were actually made, and things like that. A hand and a horse is basically measured from hoof to withers. And the withers is the point where the neck and the shoulders connect at the front part of the horse. Okay, the withers are where the neck connects in with the rest of the spine before you get to the back. And what you would do is you would walk your hands hand over hand from the hoof up to the point on the withers. And you would count how many hands it took to go from the ground all the way up to the wither point. And that's the relative measurement that is used even to this day. Now, that being said, the general consensus is that a hand is roughly 4 inches. So, for an example, my eldest, the one that had the problem here last week, he is listed as being 14.2 hands. So it takes 14 hands to get from the ground up to his withers plus a little bit. And so that's why. And by the way, technically a pony is considered less than 14 hands high. So he just surpasses the pony mark as far as that goes. Okay. Now, question number 2. Since Washington has a cooler yearly climate, do horses and ponies keep thicker coats of hair in general? Yeah, I mean, that's the general consensus, but realistically, it's usually their winter coat. Their summer coats are usually very sleek and are typically the same. It's typically the winter coat that will come in a little bit thicker. And I've actually had their winter coats come in and vary from year to year, which would give me an indication as to whether or not we were expected to have a really cold winter or not. Now, I know some people are like, oh, that's a bunch of wives' tales, but some of that has to deal with the way the farmers are. And by the way, the winter coat isn't due to necessarily the weather changing. It's actually due to scientists have since discovered that their coat changes. And they start growing in their coat based on the number of hours in the day. So as the sun and the days get shorter and shorter, that's what triggers, according to some scientists, that's what triggers the changes in the coat in all of your animals. It doesn't really have anything to do with like the air or the change in necessarily in the weather. So, anyway, question number 3. Which is more expensive, a vet or a furrier? I'm assuming that you're actually meaning farrier there, because a furrier is a taxidermist. And so a farrier, which, by the way, veterinarians and then you have farriers. A farrier basically takes care of the horse's hooves. They trim them, they, file them down, shoe them, that kind of stuff. As far as which one is more expensive, definitely the vet. The vet is definitely more expensive. A lot of the times when you bring a vet out, they have to do things like, maybe give some sort of drug or something along those lines. So yeah, the vet is definitely more expensive than a farrier is. A farrier usually would be something like $20 per hoof, roughly. Maybe a little bit more than that. So yeah, you would end up spending like $80 to $100 for a visit from the farrier. But a vet bill, like this last one, was pretty close to $1,000. So, anyway. All right. Let's see. Oh, how many horses or ponies have I owned in my life? Okay. So me personally, I've only owned 5. But no, I take that back. 6. I've only owned 6. But that being the case, okay, I have been around other horses all of my life. And my very first horse that I got that was my horse, I was 13 years old, and I ended up getting a Appaloosa mare by the name of Cincinnati. And I named her. She was named something else before that, but I named her Cincinnati. And so that was my first horse, and that's where I got the horse bug. After that, the other 5 that I've had beyond her have been the 3 that I have now, plus 2 others. And yes, I do remember the names. Like I said, Cincinnati. I remember there was a horse by the name of Danny Boy. He was a stallion, a Palomino stallion that we owned, that my grandfather owned. There was a mare, Ginger. She was just a complete bitch. But Ginger didn't like anybody other than my grandpa. In fact, she bit and kicked me before. Let's see who else. There was a couple others that I don't recall, so I wouldn't say that I remember the names of everyone. But this one, the ones that I have here, we had Desi, Sawyer, Dunny, Whiskey, and Lucky. Those and Whiskey is Desi's son, and then Dunny and Sawyer were brothers. Dunny died while I was in Dunny died while I was in Italy several years back, and Sawyer, which is my eldest, is his full brother. So, Bonnie's like, oh, Danny Boy, she was a good one, right? Actually, Danny Boy was a stallion, and yes, he was a good one. Stallions usually are not exactly very what they would consider tame, per se. But Danny Boy was very, very easily ridden and everything else. Now, I couldn't ride him by myself, being as young as I was, but yeah, we took double rides with my dad, my stepfather at the time. We would do double rides on Danny Boy all the time. Okay, the last question here is, have any of my animals been to the beach? I have never taken them to the beach. But Sawyer, my oldest, he did go to the beach with his past trainer. And she took him on a beach trail ride and had him run around in the water and stuff one time, with our permission, of course. But she took him to get him more experienced when she was training him when we first got him. So I personally I've ridden on the beach. In fact, I rode a trail horse that was, one of those that you rent. I've ridden on the beach a couple times. His name, I think, was Pedro, if I remember correctly. But anyway, I would ride on the beach down at Cannon Beach, Oregon, when I was a kid, at times. And that was all fun. That was fun. All right, so that is it for this evening. Those are all the questions. Thank you for putting that in, buddy. I do appreciate that. And that was a fun one because that actually got into me personally, which, by the way, you can ask questions like that. You can ask personal questions. You can ask political questions, news questions, whatever kinds of questions you want. So now what you can do is, if you want to submit a question of the week, all you need to do is send it off to me. Send it to fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. That's fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. So do me a favor, if you haven't already, head on over to rumble.com, get yourself an account. It's free. And once you are signed up and signed in, make sure that you search up the American Perspective channel and hit that green follow button to get notified every time I go live. But before I go, we have a very special Down Under birthday. See, I wanted to see if the Whiskey Warriors were going to catch me. Oh, I'm teasing you guys. Anyway, Beck, don't take off. Don't take off, Becky. All right, here we go. For Becky, belated birthday. Her birthday was actually the 30th, which technically it's the 30th, 31st over there in Australia. Woo, boy. Yeah, excuse me. That was bad. All right, here we go. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Becky from Australia. Happy birthday to you. Hope you had a good one, Becky, and maybe next year I'll try and get it on the right night. Anyway, if you haven't already, go ahead and hit those thumbs up or thumbs down before you take off. Across all my platforms, whether it's X, YouTube, Facebook, and of course the aforementioned Rumble. We will see you Monday, Labor Day, Monday, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern time, same channel. And we'll see you on Labor Day. Have a great rest of your evening, and good night, everybody.